Today we're doing some restoration on the 68 Charger. So a few things we're going to work on. Alright, so I had a couple of questions about how to actually get the cluster out of the Charger. So my last video when I was restoring the cluster with the TikTok tack, I kind of skipped over how to do that, so I wanted to show you again. I'm in the middle of some other projects here. I'm actually putting new vent hoses for the defrost on here and changing a few things around, putting some weather stripping around all the hoses and the fittings and all, just to make it a little tighter because they are brittle and old. But anyway, first you remove the center stack around the radio, the cover. So it's Phillips screws, and you pull that off and it looks like this. Okay, once you get that off, you'll remove the screws around the bezel there, but don't start pulling on it yet. What you got to do, you got to come under the dashboard here, and there's two screws right here each side of the column that hold the column up, and then down here, right about where the brake pedal goes over, there's a screw here. You can see it. It's right there. Okay, and you have to remove this screw. This is going to let the column just drop a little bit more. So I'm going to remove it. And by the way, these are all 11 millimeter. And then once that is out of the way, there's 4 more screws out of the way there. Don't mind these wires. Okay, looks like that. All right, and then there's a cover here. You pull this down, there are 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, and there's one here, 4. And this is the plate that holds the whole steering mechanism to the firewall. You don't necessarily need to remove this plate, just those 4 perimeter bolts there. So, let's go in here. And this is speedometer cable, by the way, if you're wondering. I know it's upside down, but anyway, you don't have to take them all the way out. You basically just want to loosen them pretty good ways. And it lets the steering column come down. I mean, you can take them all the way out if you want. Just let the steering column flop. Which is fun. Just gives you more room so you can get the column in and out easier. But this makes a huge difference in being able to get that column down enough so you don't scratch up your cluster. So let me get these down and we'll do some more video. Okay, once that's loose, then your steering column comes down like so. Push it down a little bit out of the way. But see, now we have plenty of clearance to get it out without hitting anything. So now from here, you actually start on the left side over here, and you start pulling it up towards you, like so. Open the door here so you can see a little bit better. You go in here. What you gotta do, and it's because it's old and brittle, you gotta manipulate it and pull it. I've had mine off a couple times, mine just popped off, but the vacuum line's here. There's 2 little clips on it. You pop that off, which mine came off. And there's a series of connectors here, which you'll unplug out of the way. As you start pulling it off, it'll start coming out a little more. So you start pulling your bulbs, things like that. You can make a note of where they go. Obviously the green one here is left turn signal. There's one here in the middle, which is just lights up the dash. There's one over here on top of the speedometer. This one's a reddish, like orange wire. That's for the high beams. Then you have another turn signal here. And once you start getting those out of the way, there's probably a couple more back here we need to pull loose. And then you need to squeeze your speedometer cable. Just kind of squeeze it and work it off like so. And once you get most of those out of the way, if you're like me, I've installed this tack, so I've got to get it unplugged. And then you have to come over here, you have to undo your cables for your ammeter. So take a little wrench or something or socket and do those, and then unplug the connections here on the bottom of your washer and wiper mechanism. like this. Okay, so you just basically a unplug deal. I should probably put a rag down here and just keep it from touching, but it's fine. So you'll see I'm just basically unplugging. You got to be real careful wiggling it because it is old circuit board, but you'll notice everything on the back of this is now unplugged and out of the way, except for my ammeter here and my tack. So I'm going to unplug that real quick and I'll come back. Okay, once the tack's all unhooked, then basically you just pull it out like so, and there you go. Now I did have a casualty of war here. It looks like, where is it? Oh, maybe not. I thought I had a wire that broke off. I have to come back and find it. But I thought I had a bulb that the wire broke on. I'm sure I'll find it when I go to put it back together. But there you go. That's your connections on the back. So you can see them from left to right, what they look like. Yeah, there it is. There's a connection right there. And that clearly broke off, so I've got to fix that. That was going to a bulb, so I'll have to strip it and recrimp it and fix that. Anyway, old harness, old wiring, you got to be real careful with it. Even being careful, you can still break stuff. I'm a little heavy on it, but I'll fix it. I've already had to fix this wire previously. You'll see there, spliced another wire to it. That's for the high beam. And I put these LED bulbs in it. Okay. I got the radio out, again, moving stuff around so I can get to the air conditioning, change these vent hoses. You'll see I put duct tape around last time till my new hoses came in because they were all deteriorated and cracked, so I'm changing those. I got new ones today to change those out. So earlier I got the dash back out of it, the cluster, and it's caused a couple things. One, I have a new dimmer switch. I think I told you in my other video, the original owner had bypassed the switch. I guess it had burned out, it doesn't work, so they put a jumper wire on it. I have a new one here from Classic Industries, which looks like this, which is nice. This bad boy is $174.99 from Classic Industries, so it's a little pricey, but I mean, you gotta have it. So, see the part number on here. Yeah, there you go. There is the part number there. Hopefully it's in focus. So I'm going to put this in, but I thought it was a good time. I know you saw me kind of rough handling this, getting it out, but it was for a reason. This thing's kind of just splotchy and just faded, not in the greatest shape. So I took it off of the cluster, and this is the face. And what I'm doing is I taped it all up, which is a real tedious, time-consuming task. Taping all the nomenclature up for the name and all your surrounds and everything. But I'm going to paint it flat black because that's what it is from the factory. So I like using Rust-Oleum. This is what I use. It's the 2X Ultra Cover Paint and Primer in one. It's good for wood, metal, plastic, and more. Black, flat black. So I'm using. I've washed this with soap and water, dried it off, ready to go. Like I say, taped it up, and I'm going to shoot some really light coats on it. You don't want to go too heavy, and you got to be mindful. It has these little slots in it all the way down. So you got to be mindful of your environment. If you have a lot of dust or anything, it will accumulate in your paint and get out in here. I already did the radio bezel just for comparisons. You can see what it looks like here. So this is it. Again, you tape off the trim for the chrome and you put it on. It looks great. So just to give you a side by side, you won't really be able to tell it from the factory. It just look a little nicer, a little more modern. So that's what it's going to look like once I complete it. Just little touches, you know, while I got it out. Now's the perfect time to do it. And then when I put it in, obviously I'm going to be much more careful putting it back in than I was taking it out. Part of what I'll do is take some towels and put them around the steering column. So when I have to lay everything down and put it back in, it won't get scratched. But as I was telling you before, I have new hoses that go up to the defroster vents. These are the hoses. So I'll be putting these in later. And also have some other things to put on here. My reverse lights don't work on the car. So when I got into the console and looked, this is the reversed switch, which is on the side of the shifter. you notice this little tab that sticks off here. Mine is actually broken off. So that's why when you put it in gear, there's nothing to hit this switch. And the way it works is it actually slides like this, it makes a connection. Mine's broken, so it can't hit anything, so it won't make the reverse lights work. So when I change this out, the reverse lights will work. Let's see if I got a part number on here. And the reverse lamp switch, this is really pricey. This was $131.99 for the switch. So super pricey. Again, but you gotta have it for them to work. So these are two important items here, but 174 for this, 131 for this. It adds up really quickly. I also have a new door lock mechanism for the center console. Mine started jamming up and wouldn't open cleanly, so I got this new one here. And this one was $49.99, so it'll fit the glove box in the front and the console, either one. Okay. So to change the dimmer switch, you basically take your screwdriver, flip the bezel over. I put a piece of roll of tape here to keep my little adjuster for the tic-toc tack, not to break that off. You remove 2 screws and then you pull this off. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that difficult. But here's the old one beside the new one. You can line them up, make sure they're the same. Everything mounts in the same spot. So it looks like it does. Looks like I got it upside down. So okay, good. So now the terminals there look the same as those. Flip it on this side. See the old one and the new one. All right. So the reassembly is pretty much the same as the other. You line up your holes. This goes down through here, and you put your screws back through it. And then when you put the cluster back in the car, wada bing, you should have a dimmer switch enabled again. Again, this one is toast, doesn't work. And you can see it's kind of, looks like it's broken here and it's all nasty in here. It's just not making connection anymore. Typical problem with these. It even says on it, Mopar, which more than likely it's original. And my aftermarket here says OER, original equipment. So, okay, original equipment replacement probably is what it means. Reproduction, sorry, original equipment reproduction. So that's it, real down and dirty, real quick to change that out. But if your lights don't work, your dimmer for your dash light says quit working, and you flip it all the way up and your interior light still comes on, then this is still functional, but your dash lights aren't, then this is the problem. That's what was wrong with my car. So anyway, that'll fix it. Also, in this video, maybe I'll go ahead and I'll do the foot switch. This is the high beam. Let me get the part number for you. I like doing that. The high beam, this is called the dimmer switch, headlight dimmer switch. This is cheap. This is only $9.99, so pretty cheap for this device. Check it out. Goes on the floor, you hit it with your foot, turns on the high beam from high to low beam. Now what's funny is when this thing starts getting wore out, because it is in the floor, your feet can be wet, you can introduce water into it over time, just makes it cruddy and nasty. This can keep your headlights actually working. So I had this the other day, I hit the high beam, so all of a sudden all my lights went out. So I started banging on this button with my foot, and all of a sudden the lights came back on. So I was just determined to go ahead and replace this with a new one, so that's what this is. Again, same kind of thing. You remove 2 screws, you unplug the connection, you plug it in, you're good to go. So I'll be changing this out later as well. Just maintenance items, little things just to make your experience with the car more enjoyable. And poof, just like that, the cluster's back together. So I let it dry overnight. I had sprayed it with flat black, untaped everything today, slapped it all back together. So it's minor improvement. It's not a huge deal, but it does look a little better than it did. And of course I got my new dimmer switch in here, which was the main goal of taking this back out. So now the dimmer switch is brand new and ready to go. It's got the tack installed, which I did last time. And this is kind of cleaned up a little bit. Now I'm getting ready to go in here. And on the floor over there are my vent hoses, which go up to the defrost vents. So I'm gonna put those in first. That'll just make it easier. give you some light. Just easier to get in there for all this stuff out of the way. And once I get the hoses up in there, then I can start working the cluster back in, the radio, the whole thing. So I got to put all that back in. Here is the new reverse switch, and here is the old one. Can you see the difference? Just leave this right here and see if you can tell the difference between the two. If I hold them sideways, can you tell the difference now? Something's different here. And there's nothing to push down, see? So there's nothing to allow this to slide. By comparison, this one, let me do it like this. You can slide it. So basically it's just a 52-year-old part, and the plastic just deteriorated and broke off. So when you go to put it in reverse, it couldn't send signal across these two wires here and make the continuity. So voltage could go across these wires and back to the reverse lights. So just make sure our plugs, the orientation's the same. And it is, so it should plug right in. Because I already took the old one out, it's kind of hard to tell you how to do it. I put tape on here so I don't scratch the car, because it's real tight in my garage right now until I get my shop built. But anyway, let me see what I can give you here. So what you do is you open the lid here for the console, take 2 screws out to hold the center here for the console gear indicator on. There's an Allen screw here that you remove on the shift knob. Once you loosen it, you can just turn the knob counterclockwise and it pops right off. Put the emergency brake on, pull the car in neutral, and that whole plate there slides off. Pop the bulb loose from the bottom, set it to the side. And then your shifter is held on by 3 bolts here. And they look like this. And the shifter sits on top like so. These 3 bolts, there's 1 in the back, 2 in the front. You undo those 3 bolts, and then you can basically the shifter on the side, and the reverse switch goes on like so, with the little tab sticking inside like this. And you see there's 2 screw holes down here, and that's where these line up. So it goes in like this, and away you go. So anyway, I have to put all this back together now and hook it all up. But I wanted to show you what it looks like, taking it apart. And again, the easiest way I found was just to unbolt the 3 bolts here from the shifter, lay the shifter over to the side, and unhook it and hook it all back up. So I'm going to hook it all back up. Hopefully, before I put the console and all back together, I'll make sure I have voltage coming here. And what do you do with the old part when you're done with it? Oh, we should keep this. It's got value. You know what I do with an old part like this? In the trash. I got enough valuable crap around here. You know what I'm saying? Look, I could fill a museum with good stuff that people think you should keep. Between all the Mustangs and Pontiacs and Ford trucks and Ford Explorers, last thing I want to do is have a museum of old parts that are broken. Get out of here with that crap. No, you buy a new part and you put it on and you roll down the road. And I just did a quick test and reverse lights came on. Winning! So I'll get it all together. I'll have something in the video where the reverse lights are on, so you'll be like, oh cool, they work. But anyway, it works. Boom. Now I gotta put the dash back together. But while I had everything apart, I just wanted to go in and make sure everything was working, all the circuitry's good, which it is. I fixed my wire here that I broken earlier. As you can see, it's now fixed all back up. The console's apart. I'm gonna tidy things up like I normally do, and then it'll be good to go. So I'm gonna stick it all back together, and you'll see the finished product eventually. But here's the cluster getting ready to go back in. And like I say, just a quick down and dirty freshen up on it. The biggest thing was got this dome light, which should work fine now, and the reverse lights are gonna work. So the whole part of tearing this thing now way further than I wanted to, just to clean up a few of the wiring things on it, get the dash straightened out, make it look nicer, get the wiring figured out, make the reverse lights work, get the dome light switch fixed. And the only thing left, when I hit the brakes, the emergency brake, for example, this light does not come on. I checked the bulb and it was good. So I got to trace the circuit and make sure there's a switch in there. That switch is probably bad. So I probably got to get a switch and put on it. And there's a floor switch I think I showed you a while ago for the high beam. I got to pull the carpet back, change that sometime today or maybe tomorrow. And that'll take care of that. All right. I want you to check out something real quick. All right, so I'm in the car. I haven't hooked the steering column back up yet, but in the car, got the cluster in. So get ready to test everything. So first thing is, turn the parking lights on. Everything came on, see there? Here's something that I didn't have before. A dimmer, what? Look at that. And check it out, when I roll the dimmer all the way up, oh, interior lights come on. Check it out. I mean, that's like a big deal because it didn't work before. So now I have a dimmer and turns interior lights. Because I have LEDs, they're real funny. They got to have right at voltage for them to really work properly. So we'll go all the way till the interior light goes off. So right there, and there we go, full brightness, ready to go. Now, unfortunately, I was testing to make sure I had everything else hooked up. So I did the turn the key on, and the windshield wipers, yep, they worked. Okay, and then did the lights, made sure the red light came on for the bright light bulb, see there? All right, perfect. All right, got the key turned on. Let's see if the turn signals work. Yeah, there's the right one. There's the left one. Okay, good to go, right? That works good. The only problem is I was in a hurry. I forgot to hook up the flasher. So I just didn't plug it in. What a pain, right? Tick-tock-tack's working. See the clock moving around? Unfortunately, I got to pull this back out to plug that in. That was a rookie move. But while I got the key on, let me show you something else. I got the emergency brake pushed down. I pull this down to reverse. And we'll step out here. As you can see, it's kind of tight in here. But I'm going to show you the reverse light is on. Now, what sucks about this is this side is not, so I got to open the trunk and change the bulb real quick. But I did not have reverse lights before, and now I have reverse lights. So we'll go back over here and we'll put that in park. And then we'll go back here and voila, the reverse light's off. So I promise you reverse lights, you got reverse lights, you got a dimmer switch. All that's working good. Because I had power off the radio, it's back on now. It actually cycles through all the different colors. So green's the color I have it normally set on, but some of you peers will say you shouldn't have done that. You know what? I like it. It works great. It's green to match the rest of the gauges. So now I gotta pop the cluster out real quick, plug in the hazard connection. That'll be all set up, ready to go. Hook the steering column back up. And that part of the installation restoration will be complete. And yeah, we're getting close. You'll notice the crude application of tape here. Just because I'm walking by it so much, I don't want to scratch the car. Okay, I fixed the reverse light. It was not the bulb. You see this Q-tip? No, I didn't clean my ears with it. I cleaned the bulb socket. So it had all this grease in it, and it was just freaking nasty. And the way this works is the bulb's getting power all the time, and it grounds itself through the housing. So in other words, you put it in reverse, it sends 12 volts back to the bulbs, but it gets its ground actually through the housing. So the housing itself, let me pull the bulb out here so you can see it. When you pull the bulb out, there's no ground, so it loses power. But if you just connect it to ground, voila, it starts to work. See there? So inside the housing here, it's kind of not making good connection on the other side. So I just took it and basically took a file to these terminals and cleaned them up. But inside the socket, I pulled the bulb out and I stuck that Q-tip in it, and I got it to work properly. So we'll go on that side actually fixed, and there you go. So that's the reverse light on that side. There's reverse light on that side. Reverse lights working great. And you can see on the garage door here the difference in size. Each side here, reverse light, there you go. I'll ground it to the car. See? Nice and bright, works great. So anyway, there we go. Plug it in, twist it a little bit, and we're in. Reverse light. Subwoofer, we know about that. But anyway, this grease was, I guess it's so old, it had developed a way of making it not, as an insulator. It developed this real thick, wasn't making continuity across it, and acted like an insulator, so voltage couldn't get across, so it kept the bulb from working. The bulb was perfectly fine. I cleaned all that junk out from around it, plugged in, good to go. Now, if you're curious and you want to put something on there to establish a good connection, you can use dielectric grease. It looks like this. So this is typically what I would put on things like that, and they'd be good to go. For now, it's fine. I don't worry about it. But for the future, I can put this in all the bulbs. It'll make sure it's got a nice, clean connection. Just a little tip. So today, we're going to change the foot switch, which does the high beam. Click, click, turns the high beam off and on. So this is the factory one here. And basically, it's just intermittent. You can see down here in the foot wheel, it can get dirty and nasty. Basically, it's 2 bolts that hold it in. They are 8mm headed, and then this connection on the side. So I'm gonna wiggle it off like so. There you go, pretty simple. And take my socket and just turn these counterclockwise and take it off. So these off here. Shouldn't be too long. Nope. There we go. Pretty short. Stick them there. And again, just pull the little rubber insert up and over and just pull the carpet down. You don't have to take anything else apart. It's pretty easy to get to. And we'll loosen this top one here. I'm pretty sure I can just twist that out. Nope. Cannot. Turn that. Oh, one thing to look at while you're under here. Looks like my master cylinder has leaked a little bit over the years and caused a little bit of residue there on the firewall. I'm going to change it very soon and upgrade the power disc brakes, so that's going to go away. All right, anyway, take that screw off and then look how disgusting that looks on the bottom. You see the switch, see the corrosion, the greenish blue on the terminals and the rust. This is why it's intermittent. So if it looks like on the outside, imagine on the inside. So we'll just keep our screw in our hand and we'll put it right on top of this one like so. And we'll put it right back in place like this. I think, yep. Let's see if I can get it started with holding the camera. It's a little difficult. Okay, so that's started. And we'll start our other screw here. Pretty easy job here. Again, not a big deal. Tighten those down. And again, it just holds it in place. So when you tap it with your foot, it sends a signal to the headlights to turn on the high beams. And turn them off and on. Change our socket. Okay, tight. And tight. Another torque. There, and we're good. And then we'll just hook our connection back up here. And there we go. All hooked up. So we'll get this out of the way. Move my light around so you can see this. Oh. Let's see if I can hold all this. Flip the carpet, put your padding down here like this. We'll flip our carpet back up and kick it back under the panel here. Put it back over the button. Push it in at the top. See if I can do this. That might be easier for you to see. So, button works great. this old switch, and we'll throw it in the trash, because again, I'm not keeping old original parts. These are garbage, don't work, throw them away, who cares? And there you go. Simple mod for the 68 Charger. So remember when I told you park and brake light didn't work? Well, we'll turn on the key here, and I'll go into here and grab the ground wire. I want you to see it, check it out. I'm touching it to ground, and it's working. Let me turn my radio down. Okay, so there's a switch right here. When you push down on the emergency brake, on the parking brake, this switch is supposed to move in and out. It's supposed to give you ground. There's a wire here, and in the switch, it makes this wire go to ground. So, to show you, when I touch it to ground, the bulb actually works. So the whole circuit works and the bulb works. So when I push it down, it's supposed to connect to ground and turn the light on. So basically, my switch here is either bad or the connection to ground sucks. So I just pulled this out of the switch and hooked it to ground. And again, close the circuit, light comes on. So I know everything works. We're good there. I'm gonna continue to troubleshoot the switch here. I'll try to turn on some more light for you. I know that was a problem with other videos. But here's the switch. You can see it, it's right here. And when you push down on the brake, it comes down, and that's supposed to make the connection to ground. And you let off of the brake, which I can do it like this. It lets it come up, and when it pushes on that switch, it breaks connection to ground. So, hopefully, that helps you see how that works. And if your parking brake light doesn't work and the brakes and the bulb's good, it's probably right here in that little switch. I'm going to troubleshoot the switch, see if I can fix that. If not, I'll have to order a new switch. But that's the basics of fixing all the little parts here in the car. So now everything on my dash works. I'm good to go. Okay, and just to close out the video for the parking brake, you see it's on. Pull the levers off, push the brake is on, pull the levers off, push the brake is on. What I had to do was basically go in here and just clean the connection. And when I say clean the connection, right here. So you see how I'm popping that back and forth? You can see that right here where that opens up. It's just so dusty and dirty from over the years. Look at that. It's just not making good connection. So just by doing this and breaking the dirt and dust off of it, look at that. Look, it works great. Check it out. So, sometimes it's the simple stuff. Switch is actually fine. It was just poor connection due to dust and dirt over the years. And I'm assuming it's because there's a vent right here. You can pull this handle, which is located right here under the dash. My car's an air conditioned car, so it's only on the driver's side. Non-air conditioned cars have it on both sides. But when you pull this handle, this vent right here opens and lets fresh air get into the car. Unfortunately, fresh air, this car came from Texas, and there was a lot of dust, I'm assuming over the years, just got in here. So anywhere it was made or anywhere it was living could have the same problem with a lot of dust. But that's a little tip for you. So I'm going to clean this a little more, spray some stuff on it, probably some window cleaner, you know, just to get all the little dirt out of it. But that's all it is, just a poor connection to ground. Clean that out, works great now. Check it out. Fixed. Boom.